What's up guys? Today in this video we're going to be going through strength training and why it's important for your race fitness. But first, intro please.
I'll never forget this day.
Cool. So, in this video I'm going to be going through why strength training should be a staple in your programming and why it is so beneficial for motocross riders. I'm also going to go through some basics of strength training so that you can start to get an idea of how to go about programming your strength aspects. So to start with, I just want to quickly clear something up first. Just because you may be weight training, that doesn't necessarily mean you are actually strength training. Now I say this because over the course of the last few years of training motocross riders and talking to them on a daily basis, this seems to be where a lot of riders are getting a little bit confused. So in this video I'm going to clear this up for you so that you'll have a better understanding of what strength training really is. Alright, let's get into it. So I wanted to start with why strength training is actually so important for motocross riders. The way that I like to explain this is with real life examples. So the best example that I can give you is riding on the bike. So when we are riding on the bike, you are performing certain movements, alright? So let's say that a movement that's say landing off a jump, alright? So absorbing the blow of you landing off a jump. Alright, let's say that that takes a certain amount of power output from your body in order to perform that movement. Alright, so let's start with you being say weak, alright, and not very strong. So when you perform that movement, it's going to take a lot more effort on your behalf in order to perform that exact movement. Alright, so now let's then take the other end, alright, and say that you have done some solid strength training and you are now a lot stronger than you were before. Okay, so we go off, we do that exact same movement again, putting out the exact same amount of power output again, alright, and it's going to be a lot less effort on your behalf in order to do that exact same movement again. So just say for example you are doing some very light activity like walking, you can pretty much do that all day, okay, because there's a very little effort output on yourself to do that. And then we go the other end of the spectrum and we're doing running, then that's going to be a lot more effort on your behalf, alright, and you're not going to be able to do it for as long. So if you can reduce the amount of effort required from you to do certain movements on the bike, then you're going to be able to do them for a lot longer without fatiguing. Another way that I like to look at this is with an example of a car trying to go up a hill. Okay, so starting off with say a tiny little car, little 1.6 litre engine, alright, not very fast, not very torquey, not much power, okay, and it's trying to go up a steep incline. Alright, so to start with, it's going to have to be in a low gear, it's going to have to be in higher revs, and your foot's going to be practically flat to the floor on that accelerator. Okay, so we're going to be using a lot of fuel to get up there, and there's going to be a lot of load on the engine to try and get up there, and it's really going to struggle. Alright, then let's go for the other end, and let's go with say like a big engine. You've got a big V8 engine or something like that, something with a lot of torque and a lot of power. Alright, going up the exact same hill at exactly the same speed, okay, it's going to be a lot easier. Alright, so it's going to probably be able to be in a higher gear, it's probably going to be able to be in a lot lower rev ranges as well, and obviously you're not going to have your foot absolutely flat to the floor. Alright, so first thing we notice there is that it's going to be using a lot less fuel, and there's going to be a lot less load on the engine. It's just generally easier. Alright, so taking that analogy and then putting it onto your riding, how much easier is that? Tiny engine, struggling, using a lot of fuel, so energy, and then going to a bigger engine, a lot more powerful, a lot stronger engine, using a lot less fuel, so a lot less energy, and obviously there's a lot less load on it as well. So far easier. It can do it for longer using less fuel and less energy, and it's going to be a lot more efficient as well. There are two more very important reasons for strength training for your racing. The first, when you're doing your strength training, not only are you building and developing your strength, you should also be focusing on getting better at performing the exercises with better technique. So what this means is that when you are doing these exercises, you are actually teaching your body to move better and recruit more muscles into the movements, therefore becoming much more efficient at these movements. So then when you go out on the bike and perform similar movements again, you'll be able to do so much more efficiently. There are two more very important reasons for strength training for your racing. The first, when you're doing your strength training, not only are you building and developing your strength, you should also be focusing on getting better at performing the exercises with better technique. So what this means is that when you are doing these exercises, you are actually teaching your body to move better and recruit more muscles into the movements, therefore becoming much more efficient at these movements. So then when you go out on the bike and perform similar movements again, you'll be able to do so much more efficiently. The second is that strength training will actually increase all the strength of your connective tissues. So that is things like your ligaments and tendons and all of your joints, as well as increase your bone density. What this means is that in the event of a crash, which is essentially inevitable, you will crash at some stage, you're actually going to be much less likely to incur an injury, or your injury will be much less severe and you'll be able to get back on the bike much faster. So these are the main reasons for why strength training should be included in your programming and how beneficial they are to your performance. Alright, now I want to go through how to properly strength train for motocross. The first thing that we do when creating a strength training program is exercise selection. The biggest thing here is that we want to be choosing exercises that are going to be transferring over onto the bike. So when doing this, we need to assess what kind of movements we are actually performing while riding. And the main ones that come up are squatting, hinging, pushing, and pulling. And it's funny because that's all of the main movement patterns that are in a strength program. So all of those movements are big multi-muscle movements. Alright, so they are incorporating multiple muscle groups in order to perform that movement. Alright, so when we are selecting our exercises that we want to be using in our program, we need to take that into account. So we need to be incorporating big multi-muscle movements. Okay, so super simple. For each exercise, each movement pattern, we've got squatting, which is straight up squats. So, and variations of that. So back squats, front squats, overhead squats, goblet squats, anything. All right, squats. Hinging. Hinging is things like deadlifts. So anything that is requiring us to hinge at our hips. So yes, a squat, you do hinge at your hips, but the primary movement is in the quads, not necessarily in the back part of your body. All right, so for hinging, we've got squats, we've got kettlebell swings, and many different variations there. The next, we have the pushing. All right, so pushing is things like bench press, shoulder press, and other variations like that as well. So we can then change that to dumbbell bench press, incline bench press, and then different variations of overhead pressing and stuff like that as well, from strict presses to push presses and all those kind of things as well. The next we have the pulling, and that's basically simple as like pull-ups and bent over rows, dumbbell rows, all those kinds of things as well. So making sure that we are selecting exercises that are multiple muscle groups incorporated into them and are representing those movement patterns that we established from our riding. The second thing that we do after selecting our exercises is to select our rep and sets ranges that we want to be working in. It is important to understand that different rep ranges elicit different physiological responses within the body. And this is where a lot of the confusion seems to come in. Even though working in higher rep ranges like the 15 to 20 rep range seems to be the way to go, as it seems more transferable to your riding, I want you to consider this. Even though in the long run our goal is greater strength and muscular endurance, the quickest way to increase these is to first increase your absolute and relative strength. Now, this is backed by some really solid research and testing. This isn't just my opinion, alright? If you work within the 15-20 reps and try to increase the weight that you can move within those rep ranges, then you are 1, going to progress very slowly, and 2, you're going to plateau or stagnate much quicker. So you start by increasing your absolute and relative strength. Working in lower rep ranges like 3 to 6, where you're going to see much better and faster progression in your strength. By bringing the reps down, you will also be bringing up the weight, which brings us to our third aspect of strength training, which is weight selection and progression. When starting with this strength training, you are far better off being conservative with the weight that you begin with. Starting with a weight that you can move quite easily within the certain rep range, but then increasing the weight that you lift over time. The reason for this is that you can dial in your technique and movement while the loads are low and safe, but it also gives your body more time to adapt, as opposed to starting off with almost maximum loads where you're going to struggle to increase the weight the following week, as your body hasn't had enough time to adapt yet. Even though it may take a little longer to get to your maximum loads, you'll be able to go much farther in the long run. Alright, wrapping this all up. So, strength training is going to allow you to ride more efficiently with less effort, therefore helping you to ride harder and for longer. It is also going to help with your injury prevention in the event of a crash. So also when strength training, you want to be selecting exercises that involve multiple muscle groups and represent the main movements performed on the bike. You also want to be selecting lower rep ranges and starting off relatively light and increasing the weight each week. So I hope that this has helped to clear a few things up for you and gives you a good starting point for your strength training sessions. I will be going into more detail and depth on different aspects of this in later videos, but this should give you a great starting point. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I will answer them as best I can. If you like this kind of information and want to learn more about how you can be training to help increase your performance on the bike, then please hit that subscribe button and keep up to date with all the new videos that I bring out. Until then, ride hard, train hard.